Hey y'all, Austin here with Outer World Media. Welcome back to another book review, guys. This is one I'm super excited to talk about. This is a series, if you had asked me 6 months ago, a year ago, even before then, if I that and say, hey, you're gonna read a book in the series and enjoy it, I probably would have called you crazy for saying that I was gonna read this series. I'm talking about the Gunsmith series. This is an adult Western novel. Most Western novels are made for adults, but the reason this is an adult novel, this one's a little bit more in depth in certain scenes. It's just, yeah, again, this is one, before you go into it, just know, and I'm gonna put this PSA out there to begin with. This is made for adults. This really is. There's a couple scenes specifically in this one that are aimed towards, people of 18 and over, to say the least. But you know what? I'm getting a little ahead of myself there. Let's get into what is this book about. This is The Gunsmith, number 56, Walking Dead Man. So this one is about Clint. Oh, what is his last name? Oh, they just call him the Gunsmith. Clint Adams, sorry. Clint Adams is a local. When I say local, he's like a legend in the old west. He's well known for shootouts and whatnot. He's very, very well known for a couple other things as well. But essentially, this book starts off with our main character Clint Adams meeting Wyatt Earp and kind of picking things back up. He's met Wyatt Earp before, he's known him a little while, and so he ends up meeting up with Wyatt Earp, happens to come across him, and Earp lets him know, hey, I'm actually, they're catching up, and he says, yeah, I'm actually chasing this guy who robbed, I believe it was like a Wells Fargo or a train or something. He committed a robbery and he's chasing after him, and he's kind of got an idea where he thinks he's going, down towards the Mexico border and whatnot. So Clint says, you know what, I'll go with you. Clint has a few set of rules for himself. He won't pay for a lady of the evening. He won't force a woman to do anything to him or with him, and I'm gonna leave it at that. As well as he is, he's not necessarily straight by the book, but he has a integrity about him, that he has this respect for the law. He's going to do right by the law, and he wants to uphold it when possible. So he tells Wyatt, hey, I'll go with you. So they go to this little town, and I forget what it is called. Sorry guys. I'm drawing a blank on what the town name is. But they get to town, they kind of meet up with the local military and say, hey, we're kind of here. This is what we're doing. The military said, you know what, as long as you stay out of our hair, don't do anything bad. We don't really care that you're here. Kind of the guy they talk to kind of rubs Clint and Wyatt the wrong way. But they end up going to this town, further into this town and whatnot. And that's where they come across Doc Holliday and Big Nose Kate. And so, this is like when Doc and Wyatt are first meeting up. This is years before the shootout at the OK Corral. But again, this is kind of in J.R. Roberts' world. This is how Clint, and Wyatt come across Doc Holliday, and how Wyatt and Doc meet up and whatnot. And there kind of instantly is like this, I don't even know how to describe. It's just kind of like this respect for each other between Wyatt and Doc. They can't explain it, but they just kind of have a set amount of respect for each other, just kind of right off the bat. But again, so that Wyatt and Clint are in this town. They are looking for clues for this guy who committed this robbery, and while they're there, a couple murders happen to some women of the night. A couple of them are found with like their faces just beaten in, violently and brutally murdered is what they are. And so, they're trying to see, is this connected to this other guy that we're looking for? And so, this is a very short, straight to the point book. This really is, again, Mr. J.R. Roberts. This is the first book I've read by him. This is 180 something pages, but it's very short, sweet, and to the point. We get to see, and I think this was a good introduction for me. I will say that. I think this was a very nice introduction to Clint Adams, the Gunsmith, because again, in this book, we kind of, like I said, at the beginning of the video, we get to see that he has these set rules for himself, and we kind of get to see that play out in this book. And I want to thank Heidenreid for putting this on my radar. I've known about this series ever since I was a kid, but it just didn't sound appealing to me. And then Heidenreid did a review, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, this," and so I commented on there and said, that sounds kind of interesting. And he goes, "I think you would really like this series. Give it a shot." And so again, I want to thank Heidenreich for kind of putting this on my radar and kind of convincing me to read this. Because yes, while there is, at least in this book, there's a couple scenes, one scene in particular that is a little graphic and whatnot. This is really, in my opinion, this is like watching, I don't want to say edgier. This is like watching a Clint Eastwood Western, For example, High Plains Drifter, there's that infamous scene that everybody, understandably has a problem with. But, there's adult themes in there and just the way they talk and whatnot. And that's kind of what I got from this book, was this is like watching a Clint Eastwood or a rougher Western, more realistic Western. The Louis L'Amour books, while I love them, don't get me wrong, those are kind of like the John Wayne black and white good guys, whereas this is a little bit more mean. This is just, again, I feel like this is more of a, and I hate to say this term, I feel like this is just more of a natural Western, how things would play out and whatnot. And again, that's no disrespect to Louis L'Amour or John Wayne or anything like that. I love Louis L'Amour books. I love John Wayne movies. But this just, again, this really felt like and this is a term I've heard used in the fantasy genre, this felt like a grimdark novel. It really did. Just the way things happen in there and the way, everybody acted towards each other. That's just kind of how that felt. And again, while I didn't enjoy reading one scene in particular. The other one I could, it wasn't that bad. But the one scene, while I didn't enjoy it, you really could just gloss over and skip that chapter. It's not necessarily integral to the story. It's just hey, we're going to have this in here to kind of get you, So again, I really think you could just skip that scene, at least in this one, and you wouldn't have missed anything. You would have known, hey, they had the gunsmith and this lady did something, but you don't need to know the graphic details behind it. And so again, it's not integral to the story. So if you're somebody who's a little interested in this, at least with this book, this, series, pick up number 56, give it a try. Like I said, you can skip over that scene and it wouldn't have made a difference to the book. In all honesty, you wouldn't have missed anything except reading from some smut, I guess is what I'll call it. But again, I really, really enjoyed this, this being my first one. And when I picked this book up, I didn't read the back when I bought this from the library sale, the fact that it had Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, but just kind of when I was going through them to figure out which one I wanted to read, I saw this had Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, and I instantly had to pick it up because, as you guys know, if you've been around for any point of time, I am very, very much interested in the subject of Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and the Cowboys and the shootout at the OK Corral and whatnot. This, again, it was a very interesting read, to say the least. This was one, the ending was a little bit more, short, sweet, to the point kind of thing. And there was a subject in here that was kind of brought up for a character who is committing these crimes and whatnot. We find out a little bit about him, and it's kind of like holy crap, like how that's in here. Like I wouldn't expect that to be in here, but that kind of would make sense of why this is happening. It's kind of like a Criminal Minds sort of thing that happened in here. But again, I really, really enjoyed this book, guys. I really did. Again, if you are a fan of Westerns and want something a little bit more edgier, a little bit more mean and dirty, and by that I just mean like not, black and white characters, a little bit more morally gray, I would definitely find number 56 and pick it up. You can go on, I think Amazon Kindle is like $4 or $5. Pick it up, give it a shot. Again, you can skip over that, smut chapter and you won't miss anything in the story. I honestly think that's probably what I'll do. I think I will keep reading this series and just kind of skip over that chapter because, again, it didn't make any difference to the story. It was only like 4 or 5 pages, if that. But again, guys, The Gunsmith, number 56. I really, really enjoyed this one. I give this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I really do. This was a heck of a read. Really short, sweet, to the point. I really, really enjoyed it. And again, I've already said it, but I want to thank Heidenreid for putting this on my radar and kind of I don't think he intentionally did it, but he convinced me to give this series a shot. And I'm really glad that I gave it a shot because, again, this is a book that I really enjoyed. And if the other, books in the series are like this, I'm going to really enjoy it. And I know Hyde and Reed made the comment that he's been told or read somewhere that as the series go on, the books get better. And if that's the case at number 56, there's like 200 or 300 something books in the series. I can't wait to read the later books that come after this if they are better than this one. But again, guys, as always, I appreciate you stopping by. Let me know down below. Are you interested in picking up this series? If you've read them, are there any other ones in the series that you think I should read first over others? From what I'm understanding, you don't necessarily have to read these in any sort of order. But again, guys, I do appreciate your stopping by. Thank you.